Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Pewterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Dealing with Keezer Condensation, how to stop fermentation from continuing, and forced carbing with lots of headspace in the keg. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 310. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com. Click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in to 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, joined as always by my co-host. He is the Director of Operations at cnbecker.com down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, looking snazzy, and I like the Brow Todd shirt, Todd. The hat, James, I'll say this. It's not your favorite style of hat, but you've been wearing it a lot.
Yeah, my others are trashed, so...
Wait a second. Sorry, James. It's my favorite style of hat, and I paid for them. So
wait. But are you saying wearing trashy hats is bad? I don't understand what you're saying, James.
I'm not like some people who wear the same hat over and over and over again.
Especially a purple one. Oh.
I remember one time James was like, I think I've had that hat, or you're like, Josh, you've had that hat since I've known you, and it's going on like 7 years. I was like, yeah, what's the problem? You go, you're just like looked at me like you're implying like, don't you own other hats? Don't you? What are you doing? Why aren't you wearing other hats, man? And I think we've already gone over it on the show. I have backups of that hat too, so I'm getting my money's worth out of that one. It was they had a blowout sale years ago, and my hat, they're like, oh, never doing this style again. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's the only hat that fits my head.
It surprised him
that they weren't ever producing it ever again.
Especially in that color, I guess, right?
What's wrong with purple? Look, this is kind of purplish, and Barney the dinosaur.
No,
is this not purple? Yeah, I'm kind of colorblind. This isn't purple at all. Anyway. Welcome to the show, friends. We do have a great show. We got a couple voicemails. We have 3 questions on the show. Before we get into that, let me do the small talk stuff. Todd, we did solicit people to send us photos from their weddings, serving draft beer, different configurations, all that. We've been getting a good chunk flowing in.
Yeah, we could definitely use some more. We don't really have... I'd love to see if anybody has ever done any kind of a station where they built something and have shanks coming out, or if they have a tower. We got a lot with people that just basically, well, some of it was just serving beer, like beer in bottles. And what we need is draft beer. But any more that anybody could submit, we're still doing the additional 10% off. So that makes it 20%. And we are giving anything that we use, we're sending them a beer line cleaning kit as well. Their choice of our 2 styles.
I was going to say their choice, which is people don't realize, like the beer line cleaning kit for Keg Connections is a top seller, I would say. The commercial version, the one for people who are using commercial kegs, like craft beer that they're getting at the store.
Right.
But we do have a homebrew version too. That works, fantastic. And I think I showed y'all the video. My dad, that ball lifter, he uses that ball lifter that's meant for couplers to hold open the distillants, the liquid, when he's cleaning them out. Had y'all ever done that before?
I didn't think there was enough tension to hold that in place, but I guess there is.
Yeah. He's finding new ways to use it because we have.
No, I've never done that. Absolutely. But it was smart. Yeah.
Smart. No, my dad.
Your dad is really smart. Yeah.
which is my segue now, buttering you up, Pop, to the breakfast stout. I brought it to y'all. Y'all can't say I didn't bring it in record time compared to other brew days I've done.
Awesome. It was awesome. Yeah. I had some last night.
Yeah, really good.
And I really enjoyed it. It is strong. Woo!
I regret.
Alcohol strong.
Oh yeah, finished almost at 8%. I regret that I was talking to your wife in the barn when James was trying it, and James, the witty, smart aleck he can be, was like, because I always, all right, some backstory for people. Every time Todd introduces a beer, the last few batches, I don't know why, I just get a waft of diacetyl. And so my I don't have filters, and it comes in my mouth, and I go, okay, is there diacetyl in this? And Todd every time is like, you idiot. And he has, to prove a point, everybody else in the whole county try it, and nobody else can taste it. So maybe I had a small stroke, and that's a byproduct of the stroke is I taste butter and everything. But anyway, so Todd pours some from his keg, which is the same batch that James's keg was made from, which, by the way, both y'all got full kegs. I know that's probably surprised you too, Todd.
Yeah, that was nice.
I actually gave y'all full kegs. But anyway, James tries it, and I didn't even hear it because I was talking to Liz, and he says something. What did you say?
Well, Todd asked me, what do you think of it? And I said, it's got a little... Other than the diacetyl, it's not too bad.
That's what it was. Other than the diacetyl. And then y'all both kind of look at me. And I was talking to Liz. And it
wasn't fun at all because you didn't hear it.
I wish I would have been paying more attention. I've never been accused of paying good attention to things. But I'm super happy with how it turned out. I've got a batch of Kolsch in here. It's finishing up fermentation. I pitched the yeast Sunday early afternoon. Got back home Wednesday night, last night, and activity was still going. I'm going to take a reading when we're done recording because I don't want to end up like I'm just now realizing like it could be getting drier, right? Like, it could be like your last batch of Kolsch, right, Todd, where you had to stop it. Like you didn't want fermentation to continue. We actually have a question about stopping fermentation, so all this is relevant. I usually pick questions that either butter me up or are relevant to the things I'm doing too. But yeah, got a batch of Kolsch there in the small talk, the Todd's article.
Yeah, y'all forgot about my not alt in the conical, so.
Well, I didn't. Well, you had given it. You gave it to me because you pressure fermented this alt. Well, tell everybody. So first off, your brew day last Friday, you did it, but when you were weighing it, the scale was accidentally showing kilo instead of pounds. So go from there.
So I got all the base malts, and I was working on the caramel malt, and I kept weighing it. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a whole lot of grains because I had switched buckets.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me, and I looked at the scale, and there was a K in the display, and I was like, shit.
Oh,
sorry,
man.
guys.
No, you're good.
And so I thought, well, I'm just going to finish it out, mix it up. So I had 3 buckets, and I kept pouring and mixing and pouring and mixing, and I poured out I added up the total amount of in pounds of the grains that I needed for the recipe, thinking, well, if I mix it up enough, maybe I'll get close. And it's got too much roasted malt in it.
That's what you told me. But then you brewed it, you pressure fermented it. So but when you gave us a taste, it was after you had just put it in to start cooling down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so we're going to call it a not alt.
Yeah. So last time you had a alt stout, which wasn't supposed to be an alt at all, but Todd was like, oh, this style tastes kind of altish. And now we're going to have the not alt. I like it.
And we've also had the famous
Blonde alt.
Blonde alt. Blondis alt.
The blondish alt, which Todd, pardon me, you, James, swear that's like one of your top 3 alts you've ever brewed.
It tasted good. It just didn't have the right color.
It was
I think I'm the only one in the United States that screwed up alts so many times.
That's why nobody else does them as much as you. It's a thing of attrition.
I found many ways to make it wrong.
We then also opened up bottles. Our friend Peter with the D, right? Peder. He sent us. And I have the letter. Oh, I have that letter somewhere. Really cool guy. He sent us bottles of alt beer that he brewed.
It was really good.
Incredible. The color was on, the flavor was on. And this was a guy who has never had the style, right? Wasn't that part of the story?
Right.
I like that. I like that your recipe, because he brewed your recipe. He actually, I believe, called you to ensure he was brewing your recipe. Like, you've talked to the guy. And
I sent him several different ones. I said, you can pick from whichever one you want. And then he emailed me back and a couple of days later and said that he decided to brew. I believe he said he decided to brew my beer and that he would send a sample, and true to his word, he sent it. We appreciate it, Peter.
It was incredible. It was really good. I was super impressed. And
good job.
I always love when people send us beer anyway. Although our buddy Kenny, when he sent us beer, it was all a bunch of like milkshake IPAs. I think it was me.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny. I enjoyed them all.
Todd made me share one with him the other night, and by share I mean I gave him 3/4 of it, and I kept a quarter. But no, we always love when y'all can send it. Our address: Homebrew Happy Hour, 1800 EDC Parkway, Comanche, Texas. Attention, Joshua. If you send it in, because otherwise Todd tapes it as his own, and then I can't help y'all with when it comes in to Todd, and we don't know what happens to him. But anyway,
I know what happens to him.
Yeah, we know you do. So the breakfast stout, Todd's wedding article, like he did say at kegconnection.com, it is still 10% off site wide. Good now through the end of December, and there's still even better deals than that. The 40% off the Keezer kits in a kettle, 25% off keg kits. Really good deals. Fast shipping. Right now, FedEx, y'all gotta check. I sent a newsletter out. There is an article. Depending on where you live is depending on the Christmas shipping schedule. If you waited this long to get a Christmas gift for the home brewer or craft beer enthusiast in your life, shame on you. But you can still probably get it shipped to you in time. Just go look at, we use FedEx primarily. And obviously, if you call in, we can always offer them expedited, right? Like that's always an option.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
I know James has helped a lot of people too with trying to. You just did one, I thought, long ago to someone in Houston, expedited it, right, for 2 days, and it actually wasn't that bad. But to be fair, Houston's not that far from y'all, so that probably helped why it wasn't so expensive. I have, as someone who's been sending out recipes and doing shipments, shipping costs are absurd. I hope I don't see any sign of them going down either. It's kind of, I don't want to go on a tangent of my depression. And
no, they're going up. Yeah, they're going up.
That's what I'm saying.
They just announced a new price increases for January with FedEx, UPS.
No, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. So literally, they're going up for a fact.
Yep, they're going up.
Yep.
Anyway, the Homebrew Depression Hour is my second show I'm starting next year. Subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. Site-wide deals, Todd's wedding thing, breakfast stout, my Kolsch. I think that covers all the small talk, guys, unless y'all have anything else. You're not alt. I liked how it tasted before you cooled it down. Todd, have you had it since he carbonated it?
I have not. Well, I should go get some.
You should, because James, I don't want him to be like, if it's, I don't want you to dump it, is what I'm getting at, James, because I liked what I tasted when you.
Where is it? Is it in the fermenter?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Maybe I'll run over there and try it real quick
while
y'all are talking.
Well, no. We're about to do the first question, which is a voicemail. So listen to it first. And it's actually going to require your expertise. So, no. Go and get it. Because I have to talk about Shrub Club. Go get it. Go. Shoo. All right. So for the month of December, we are in December, we are brewing the delicious, boom, right there, James Brown Ale. I didn't send you the artwork, James, so let me describe it to you. It's James Brown. It's James Brown in the middle, a young James Brown, a young Keith Richards on his right, and a young John Belushi on his left. And I added a quote where it's in open bracket, after drinking James Carlson's brown ale, close bracket, I feel good. And I don't think that was a real quote, but it is going to ship out with Imperial's house. Those are supposed to arrive next week. So the end of the month, we will be getting all those kits out to you, which is also a reminder, if you're in our Chub Club at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, I just put out a thing to all the recipe receiving members with some updates on how things are going now that we're getting some sponsors and all this stuff, some commitments we're making in regards to shipping time, because the last few months we had some delays where ingredients would come in kind of late, so it would have to be in the early next month that the recipes got out. A lot of stuff in 2023 is getting better, improving. We're offering more for our members. So if you want to join us and brew with us, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Again, I'll put it on the screen one more time. The James Brown Ale, it's delicious. You're going to like it. And if you don't, tough. So no, I'm kidding. We're very flexible people, but the recipe is good. All right, Todd is back. He's drinking the not alt. I like the color of it. It looks alt. It's copper.
Yeah, that's terrible. I think we should keg it all, and I'll just store it at my house.
I knew it. It's delicious, isn't it? It was delicious.
It's not an alt.
Well, okay, if it's not an alt, well, what would you... Well, okay,
I think it tastes real close to some of the alts that we've tried here in the United States, but it doesn't taste like a Dusseldorf alt.
You know, it'd be the most backwards compliment you could have given right there was like, I won't name breweries, but there's one kind of in our area that we talk about. James used to go to that town a bunch. If you're like, it tastes a lot like alt, that would have been perfect. The backhand.
Yeah.
Ooh, Dankeschön for
yeah, that's good. It's got a. I see what you're talking about though. It's got some of the grains that are roasted more in it, because it gives a that there's some bitterness coming from that versus the hops, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like that. So yeah.
I was gonna say,
I'll take it off your hands for you, James. I'll do you a solid.
I'll take a keg too. I don't mind if I do.
Y'all are both getting a keg. I did over 15 gallons in the conical, so I mean we should be able to get 3 kegs out of that, no problem.
Josh wouldn't like it.
But depending on and James, I tell you what, depending on how this Kolsch turns out, I'll bring you some of it. I'm so worried just because I don't know. I get paranoid every batch now. I just get.
What am I, mud now or what?
No, I just don't have enough for you. You have a Kolsch. You have. Oh no, you don't. That's all for the wedding.
Yeah, all for the wedding.
I'll have to figure out a way. Oh, well, the next batch of Kolsch I brew, we remember I did commit that I'm going to do your method of brewing like it's for 15, but getting to volume by adding it after the fact.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
fun to try.
I had a bunch of people. I told them to leave voicemail so I could give them some of your money, but they texted me not as formal feedback, but like friends of the show saying like that's exactly what macro breweries do. A lot of macro breweries do that, where they get to volume through water and takes out a lot of the guesswork in regards to like grain ratios or stuff, trying to get to full volume. But anyway, we do have a great show lined up for y'all, so let's get this bad boy going. No listener feedback, right into questions. Our first question is a voicemail. It's our buddy Nate from Oregon about condensation and liquid buildup inside of a Keezer.
Hey, it's Nate from Oregon. I have a question about condensation and liquid buildup inside of my Keezer. I recently had to replace my low pressure gas gauge on my regulator because it's become rusted and full of condensation, which was an adventure in itself that I don't want to do again. But I still notice there's a lot of drip and liquid around the Keezer itself. Is there a way to mitigate this? Also, Josh is fine, I guess.
I'll take it. Josh is fine, I guess.
Josh is fine, yeah.
I guess. Not even a confident, just I guess. We're going to have to work on that, Nate. But anyway, Todd, you're the Keezer man, and I know, let me take a stab at it, and then you can elaborate. Like your Keezer, sometimes I'm over there, and it's getting opened and shut. I don't know, 10 times in a night. If like you're trying to reconnect things, the more your friends are there, the more it has to be open because you're floating kegs and this, that. Is that kind of temperature fluctuation the biggest culprit of condensation starting in a Keezer? Or like what would you say is the biggest culprit, and how do you mitigate that from happening?
I don't. I mean, I get condensation all the time. And I always have a lot of liquid on the bottom. A lot of times it freezes because of the way my Keezer is. It'll it'll basically just freeze on the bottom. It must have some cooling real low or on the bottom. I think it's probably on the sides real low, but yeah, I don't really. We did insulate the inside, even around the boards, which certainly I'm sure helps a lot because it basically everything's insulated. But I don't think you're ever going to eliminate it. But James, do you have any ideas?
A lot of times, what I've seen in the past is check the door gasket, and see if there's any kind of leak. The easiest way to check it, what we used to check when I ran restaurants, is I'd take a dollar bill because it had a magnetic seal. I don't know if the kegerator ones do, but you can take it and you run it. If it slips easy, then you probably got a gasket that needs to be replaced. And it's sucking air. It can pull in moisture and cause that. It can make that worse. And then some of those units, they just do it. Every now and then you have to unplug it and let it thaw out.
Well, and I was gonna ask that, is it also possibly just part of having a key, like just part of, like the routine maintenance of owning one? Because like my pop and I have an Edge Star Keezer that I ended up taking to his house, a two keg, and he has one right next to it. And I feel like maybe quarterly, he'll text me and correct me. I feel like quarterly we're defrosting that thing, like we're taking the kegs out. We wait till they're empty or they're small enough to maybe transfer to a growler and put in another fridge. But I mean, it's not enjoyable, but it's definitely not the worst thing in the world to have to do that. And for us, with the Edge Stars are great too. These fridges have lasted me. Gosh, Todd, when did I buy that one? I was freelancing for you when I bought it. I mean, it's been the one I have is like almost 10 years old. So like, it's a great, as long as you take care of this stuff, they last a while. But my point being, it is not uncommon, I don't think, for you to have to live with this and resolve it. I know with Keezers, Todd, especially, people use those computer fans for making sure that the air is circulated and even, like the temperature's even. Would that help at all, or is that just going to make sure that any air seeping in?
I don't know. It may dry. I don't think so. I mean, if the door's shut and the air's flowing around, I don't know that it's going to dry because there's nowhere for it to escape.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking when I was saying that out loud.
I mean, I'm no HVAC expert, but yeah.
I have a really good friend who is an HVAC guy. I should get him. His name's Matt. I should ask him.
Yeah, he might have some ideas.
Hey, Matt, what would you think about this? No, it is a bummer. Like, if it got to the point, though, where Nate had to replace something because his regulator, he had to replace the low pressure gauge. That must have been pretty bad. That probably means there was more than just a standard, like, that's just how the fridge operates. So it's probably some kind of bigger gap, right?
I don't know. I mean, I get a lot of condensation in mine.
Oh, do you?
So, yeah.
How often do you, so how often are you defrosting it? Because you have 9 right now.
I mean, condensation doesn't necessarily mean you have to defrost unless it freezes up on the, where the coils. I mean, it's different, I think, on a chest freezer than it is a regular fridge.
Gotcha.
Because the condensation just freezes, and it's not really, it's not necessarily like on a regular fridge, depending on whether it's a plate or it's coils. Like if it's a plate, which is pretty common, that plate can freeze over, and then you've got to defrost it. So with a Keezer, I don't think that happens as much, but I mean, I haven't had issues with that.
Yeah, I was thinking, as I was listening when you were talking, I swear, but I was thinking, like, I imagine a fridge style like my Edge Star, I probably open that more than you open your Keezer stuff. I mean,
I have a kegerator at home too, remember?
Oh,
and
you
I have
do?
to
That's
defrost it all the time.
You do?
Yeah.
And that was one of the higher end ones we used to sell. We called them the Duradraft, no, the tap drafts. Those tap draft ones, which were meant to be outdoors. And they work well outdoors. And that was going to be my next question was, does it matter? Is location of the kegerator or Keezer a factor of condensation, or it is just air getting in is the biggest factor of having to deal with?
Yeah, I'm sure it would have an effect on it depending on where it was.
Right. Like a not temperature controlled area, you might be prone to more condensation.
Yeah. Like outside, that would be a big difference than inside, because your air conditioner or heat pump's going to pull that out of the air, the ambient air. So it's not going to be in the air to to create an issue inside the kegerator. Whereas outside, it's humid. When it's humid, it'll be worse.
That's what I was thinking too. Todd, you have a look on your face, or is that just how you look?
I just look like that.
Oh, okay. Nate, that is a good question. This is a great one to solicit people in the community. Like, if people do have ways that they feel like mitigates the condensation, well, hey, I implemented this and it seems to have helped. But I mean, at the end of the day, probably it's like, yeah, condensation's a part of it. Just like keep an eye on it. I don't know, Todd, like when you're doing your cleaning of faucets, do you use that as a way to, I'm going to take a towel and wipe down the inside? And I mean, what?
Typically when I clean my faucets, I will turn if I'm going to be working on it for a while, I will turn the electricity off to it. And then I will do whatever I need to do. Say it takes an hour and I'll turn it back on. So in doing that, I'm probably defrosting it some, but then I also will, can wipe out the bottom and that sort of thing. But for the most part, I don't worry about it. I don't understand why a regulator would, regulators are typically brass or stainless steel. I don't understand why a regulator would rust. I don't know what type of regulator he's using, but I've seen them turn green, because that's typically what happens with brass or copper. But I haven't seen. I'm not sure what's rusting on it. Maybe he means the gauge itself that he replaced was rusting because they have metal on them. But but they're painted. But eventually it would rust.
I believe that is what he's talking about. The low pressure gauge was what rusted. Yeah, which doesn't make sense.
I mean, I've had my Keezer for how long now? When did we do that?
A long time.
3 years ago.
2020.
Yeah, and I've been using it constantly since then, and I don't have mine aren't rusted.
Yeah. Yours is held up well, and I'm kind of segueing. Nate, thank you for the question. What maintenance on your Keezer? You're coming up on 3 years of having it fully functional. You are not ever not using it. In fact, you're have more beer in it than ever before. Pretty common for you to have it stacked full. You're serving 6 off of it, but it stores 8 or 9 5-gallon jugs.
You actually 8 or 9 depending on what.
Yeah, you have a 10
right
gallon
now.
keg.
I've got a 10 gallon in there. I just floated it though.
Yeah, but like basic maintenance on a Keezer, like I know, didn't you touch up the outside?
I don't do any maintenance except just if I have to repaint something or I do. I guess the maintenance I would say you're right. Paint. I've taken all the kegs out before and repainted the inside parts of the inside that were starting to where the paint comes off because I rubbed it off. You got to remember that that was for some reason I don't remember if we bought that brand new or if I think we already had it.
The fridge
here we already had it here. That's right, because we were storing something else in it, and we were storing beer in it, and then we turned it into that, so it was kind of scratched up on the inside, so I had to paint it anyway, so I had to repaint it a while back.
I guess your memory's shorter than mine. You don't remember that was the fridge you bought when I lost a $5 bet about what chest freezers cost. Do you remember that bet? Because I was like, I
remember it, but I don't know if that was 3 years ago or 6 years ago.
No, that was like 5 years ago, I believe, or 4. It was way before you turned it into your Keezer. But yeah, that was the bet because I was like, no, dude, they're like $8. That has to be like $1,100, and you're like, I'll bet you $5. I go, of course.
See, I wouldn't bet you now because they are that much now.
Yeah. Well, see. Past Josh was speaking on behalf of future Josh.
That's what it was.
Also, by the way, can I remind you, what is today? Today's December 15th. Hey, this is my wedding anniversary, by the way. 15 years.
Oh, yeah. Happy wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
She doesn't listen.
So for a romantic evening, Josh is going to go work out with the guys.
I am going to jiu-jitsu tonight. He was like, yeah, you get lucky tonight? I go, I'm going to be rubbing up on somebody.
Oh, that was too much information.
TMI. I'm going to edit that out. My mom listens to this. No, I am. It's Thursday night. I got to go train because we're going to the beach. We're leaving tomorrow after work when she gets home from work, and when I wrap up for the boss man. We're gonna drop the kids off at Grandma and Grandpa's, and then go to the beach for the weekend. So that'll be my fun anniversary thing. But anyway, we are only 16 days away from me winning. I think the third $5 bet, the second $5 bet I've won this year. So
I'm happy to pay it because I've saved like $35 in bets that you would have won because you refused to bet on.
You've been setting me up, dude. You've been setting me up. There's no way that many bets would have just fallen into my lap. You are so conniving. I'm not going to fall. You did this to me a couple years ago with our weight loss challenge where you got me all buttered up. You made me think that you were gaining weight. You're like, Josh, can we please let's wrap it up because it's about to be Christmas. You don't want to be miserable during Christmas. I was like, all right, Mr. Burns, just get your $100 bill ready. Let's go get the scale out. He takes off the layers of clothing to reveal he lost like 60 pounds. And he did it to me after we ate breakfast, which I didn't think about until now. You didn't even eat that morning. You were like fasting and you fed me a bunch of sodium-filled food. Anyway, I'm totally digressing. Nate.
Yeah, you were.
Thank you so much, Nate, for submitting the question. This is a great time to remind you, if and when we use your question on a future episode, you get a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com. Submit your voicemails now, guy, through the end of December so that you can get them and take advantage of all the deals going on at kegconnection.com. When you leave us a text message or use the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com, you still get a $15 gift card, which is pretty stinking good if you ask me, which our second question was someone, as our buddy Ross, who did use the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Ross wrote, Todd, when you talk about stopping fermentation by dropping the temperature down, are you waiting a certain amount of time before transferring? I understand that you have a unit tank from Spike, but for those of us who still transfer into carboys and kegs to finish the cold side of our fermentation, what would you do? It's probably not wise to transfer into my keg while fermentation is active. I mostly use kegs to do the cold crashing, so how would you suggest I stop fermentation and then transfer into my keg? Same question for James. Joshua, I don't have anything for you. Best, Ross. It's a Todd Burns heavy show today.
I do still brew that way. So I have a unit tank, but I also put it in buckets a lot. And then transfer into glass carboys. So I do that quite often, and then I transfer into a keg, and I cold crash the beer in the glass carboy. But if I was going to instead cold crash it in a keg, which I've done, if you've hit your gravity, and let's say you're going for 1.012, you don't have to wait. You can just transfer it and stop it. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to wait.
Right. So James, even though fermentation is active and you're transferring, there's no risk of ruining the batch or that doesn't increase the chances of fermentation happening in the keg because you're going to be dropping the temperature down and literally stopping it from being able to happen.
Yeah, and I think it would drop quicker in a keg than it would in a carboy or a bucket because it's there's more surface area to cool when you put it in the cooler than it would be in a glass carboy, which is a lot wider and shorter, or a plastic bucket, which is, it's about the same size. Yeah, I wouldn't have any problem. Just try to get as clean a draw into the keg, purge it first, and then get it in there as clean as possible. If you have the ability to do it, it helps when you're transferring to cool it down in the bucket or the carboy, but you may not have space to cool something that big down. So yeah, hit your target, take your hydrometer sample. It's where you want it to be. Go ahead and move it into a keg and cool it down. You should be fine.
On the batch that my dad and I made for ourselves, so y'all's batch was in one fermenter and our batch of the breakfast stout was in another. It was still kind of going, but we were there, with numbers and stuff. And so we transferred, and I know he was kind of worried because it was like, I don't know, man, are we supposed to transfer when there's like still evidence of krausen? Like, dude, I don't think it matters. And it turned out fine. It might be because of the style and it's super boozy, but like, I wasn't too worried about it. Todd, I know, like he was saying, I know you do transfer and stuff. You do have the benefit though, like your Kolsch, when I was there a couple weeks ago and it was already at 10.9 or 10.8.
I don't remember, but it was lower than I thought it would be at that point. It was really quick.
Right. So really quick. So all you did was just drop it down to stop it. And what you're saying is, even if you weren't using a glycol device, you would have gotten your numbers, seen that, oh, I'm already there, and just transferred into whatever vessels you're using to stick in the fridge.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you stop it. where
Right.
you want to stop it. I mean, otherwise you just let it go and it goes however low it goes.
Right.
So that's how you. I mean, that's
That is how you stop
That's
it.
how that is how you stop it. Yeah.
Right. No, I was just reiterating what you said because I know some people like I've gotten people who are brand new, and it's a great question. Well, they'll write in and say, "Do I just let the fermentation go till it's done?" And okay, let's explore that. James, what is the risk of letting it? Is there such thing as over fermented on a style? What's the worst that would happen? It gets really dry.
It gets the lower the gravity, the less sugar, the less it just gets drier, which I happen to like.
Yeah, it gets better and better.
Yeah, but some styles, like I don't know if you would want a dry milk stout.
Good point.
Well, and I think a Kolsch is actually a pretty good example because you do want a little bit of that sweetness in a Kolsch. Like, I don't know that you'd want to take a Kolsch down to 6. That's kind of what happened on this one. It was lower than I wanted to stop it a little higher to get that sweetness, but I tried it last night and it was tasted really good, and I felt I could still taste that little bit of sweetness you expect. So, and I love a dry Kolsch, so yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah.
Lighter and drier is always more refreshing, I think.
I tend to agree, and so where I'm going with it is in theory, there's no harm. Like if someone is just a hands off, like I am so terrified, I don't want to mess with it when I actually see activity going, then they can let it just roll till it finishes, right?
Yeah, that's why when I first started brewing, I just let it rip until it was done, and no evidence of fermentation, no bowls within 2 minutes or so. Heck, I don't remember. It's been so long, but that's the way I always did it.
It's been so long. I like that. It's been so long. Both you guys and y'all talk about your homebrewing past. Oh, back when I started. No, but I'm with you where because our show, despite the Reddit comments of just raving about our expertise and how we know everything, we do. A lot of people like us for our accessibility, but also a lot of new people tune in because of that reason. And so I just want to reassure people, if the whole theory or mantra of relax, don't worry, have a homebrew applies way more than people give it credit for. Like with fermentation, if you're like, oh, I hit my number there, but I don't want to transfer because it's still going, then don't, or do whatever you want. And I guarantee you, it's going to be a learning process either way. If you just let it rip because I used Imperial and it's just churning and ripping, or like Todd's Kolsch is a better example that, you used Lala Man and the circumstances, it was ripping and it was still below the number that you had intended. It was below the 1010 and it was still just ripping. Like if you weren't someone who took numbers, you'd be like, all right, man, this fermentation's going good. As opposed to oh man, I hit the numbers that I wanted with this batch, therefore I'm going to kill fermentation. But at the end of the day, like Ross, if you have certain numbers that you want to hit, then yeah, just transfer in your.
I would say the vast majority of the time when I brew a beer, it's pretty much stopped bubbling and it's kind of where I want it to be. In other words, rarely do I have to worry about it a whole lot and stop it. I mean, it's because I should say that I do, again, I like drier beers. So if it gets down to 1.008, I'm actually happy about that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You're not upset. And it is incredible using James, your recipes are built to obeying the pats of the yeast. What they like you're following, you're in, you always tell me, it's on your recipes, look at what the yeast patch says and follow it. So when I brew using the grain ratio and stuff that you set out on the recipe, and then I pitch that Dieter and I stay within the temperature range, like Todd's saying, 9 out of 9 times, or 9 out of 9.5 times, it is doing exactly what the sheet says it's going to do, and it stops, and I'm at my number when it stops. This isn't.
Yeah, and it also produces some pretty clear beer. Just from primary fermentation. It's amazing. It's amazing yeast.
Oh, really? I know. Yeah. You use Dieter on your not alt because that's what I had gotten. I didn't get you any Keezer. And, but Dieter works for it. I think in their profile, it says you can use it for Kolsch and alt and all that. We didn't get any.
Yeah, it worked good. I mean, it was finished. I brewed it on a Friday and came to work. Well, I pressure fermented it at room temperature, and we got at work. It was at 1.009 on gravity. So I thought, well, that's good enough, and cold crashed it, other than the not alt. profile, it'll drink. That I guess sometimes when it doesn't turn out the way you want it, as long as you can drink it, then it's success.
You have a knack for making good beer, though. I know you're your biggest critic, and I'm always like, dude, I love this beer. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I would just say this. If I want to brew an alt, I want it to be as close to what we have had in the past, in Germany. And, I think for the most part, we've been able to do that. So when we don't, it's kind of a letdown.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. But the optimism is it's still delicious, and I like it. When we opened up Peter's alt, I was like, that is a really good alt. And I almost, to mess with you, I almost wanted to ask Todd if I could go upstairs and get that Brewery Kurtzer keg. I don't even know if y'all remember we have it. And,
I forgot.
Okay.
Yeah. We'd notice if it was missing.
Because I was going to bottle it and say, like, guys, surprise, I made some malt, and see what y'all thought about. That's what I almost did for Kolsch Cup as a troll, but I didn't because we got so many entries. I was worried we weren't going to have any entries, and so I was like, I'm going to take off the labels of Frou and scrub off the top label part and submit it as someone and see if anyone can recognize it. And I'll be like, oh my God, this is incredible. But I didn't. The ideas I have and the execution I have are not always.
Well, I've actually never had that kind of alt. Never.
Oh yeah, you didn't go. Y'all didn't go to Kurtzer. That's right.
Nope.
Well, because it's for the young people, James. It's for the. That's why obviously Todd.
That's why I went. Yeah.
My favorite picture is when y'all. What was the young bar that y'all went to in
Marble?
Where was it? What country though?
It's Marble Brewery in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, and Todd, y'all sent me a photo. Todd, you have your beanie on and like your your cool like Back to the Future bubble vest, and you're like holding the beer, going like.
We're the oldest people in the room.
Yeah, I look pretty cool. The women were really hitting on me hard in that bar.
Okay.
I must have missed that one.
Oh, James, you were just drinking too much, man. You were just drinking too much.
That's probably what it was.
Anyway, Ross.
It was literally almost like if they had a record player when we walked in, it would have went, and everybody turned around and like, what's these old people doing?
Yeah, the narrator.
I mean, they must have been hitting on me. They kept putting their hand under my shoulder and helping me walk, and they opened the door for me. Yeah,
they said "sir" a bunch. I think that's
yeah.
Anyway, Ross, thank you so much for submitting your question. A final reminder that when we use your voicemail question on a future episode, you do get a $25 gift card to KegConnection.com. Any other kind of text-based stuff, you still get a $15 gift card to KegConnection.com. Our third and our final question is a voicemail. It's our buddy Jerry from Arizona.
Hey guys, this is Jerry from Phoenix, Arizona. Listen, I got a question for you. Todd, I saw your video recently on force carbing a keg, kind of the quick method to do that. And I had a situation where I brewed a 5-gallon, half of it. So that left me with about 2.5 gallons to put in my keg. I can't pressure transfer, so I did purge the headspace. And then I wasn't sure if, because it was less than a full keg, if there was going to be anything different about how I quick carb that beer. In the end, I decided to just set it and forget it since I was working all week and wasn't going to enjoy it quite right away anyhow. But I was just curious because I only had a half a keg. Does that change anything with how you need to do the quick carb on the keg? I appreciate any feedback you've got on that, so when I do it next time, I can enjoy my beer a whole lot quicker. Thanks, guys. Love what you're doing with the show. Keep it up.
Jerry, no, I'll just say absent from his thing was kind of sucking up to me. That's kind of what we're looking for in voicemails, but good question either way. That it is a great question. I don't know if you've ever been asked that, Todd, directly, because a lot of people reach out to you directly from the video. So I don't know if you've already addressed this with people, but does it make a difference?
Yeah, it does, because basically you've got, he did say he purged it, so we know it's got CO2 in it, and he doesn't have any air in there. That's probably the most important thing. But what I've found is that if you have a lot less beer in there and you're shaking it back and forth, it's folding over or doing whatever it does a lot more, and it will carb a lot faster. So if I've got a beer that's really full, like a keg that's really full, and we've had a lot of those lately, James, because you and I have both been doing a good job of filling the kegs all the way for each other. I find that it carbonates a lot slower because there's very little volume of CO2 in there that it works to carbonate with. So yeah, it definitely makes a difference. It doesn't hurt anything. In fact, it makes it easier and faster, but you got to be careful not to overcarbonate it. So what I would do is maybe like I have a system that I use, and I'm not even sure if it's the same system as what I did on the video because I did the video so long ago. But I will typically force carbonate for like a minute, and then I will try it. And then you know what? That saved me big time day before yesterday.
It's true.
Because I did that and I tried it and it was almost overcarbonated because I may have gotten bad information from the person that gave me the keg. They said it wasn't carbonated at all. But anyway, so I tried after a minute, and then I will maybe, if it's not very carbonated at all, I may do it another minute, and then I'll check it again. And then I may go to like 30 seconds and check it again until it gets even 15 seconds till I get it to right where I want it. But I think what would happen is that if you had took a full keg and did that and took an empty keg and half full keg, is it half full or half empty? Keg and did that.
This month, half full.
Half full. So,
last month, half empty.
So I think you're going to find that it carbonates a lot faster.
Interesting. I was going to ask, is there some scale formula you use, or is this all just the Todd Burns up in the noggin?
No, there's absolutely no scale, form, anything. It's just me force carbonating on my knees. Yeah.
You have told me for a while now that you want to...
I don't actually get on my knees, but I put the keg on my knees as I sit on a chair.
You've told me like a lot to this whole year. Like, I should probably refilm that. I do it a little bit different. That's the best part, and I'm saying best in a very mixed way. You guys are always trying to, you're not always trying. Y'all are tweaking like y'all's methods, or like when I asked, like James is a great example. You're always wanting your recipes to be maybe a little different each time, or you're like, this time I want to get this. So when I asked you, like, hey, can I get your alt recipe for this guy? You're almost like, well, which one? Like, which one did you go for?
Pages of alt beer recipes.
You have pages.
I went back to some of the earlier ones. I've got like 10 pages of recipes in my Brewer's Friend. Yeah. And I went back and looked at some of the very first ones that when I first started doing all grain recipes. They're laughable.
Are they really?
I look at the grain bill and I think, what was I thinking? That clearly didn't know what I was doing when I was just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck.
It's like looking at it's our 15th wedding anniversary, and I'm looking at pictures of our first couple years of marriage and the things I chose to wear, and like, what was I thinking? No, it's the same things I'm wearing now. But no, it's like, going back and looking at the things you do in the past.
Like a pound of chocolate malt. What was I thinking?
Did you really use a pound?
That's terrible. I'm exaggerating, but that's a good example of my grain bill and having structure and knowing how the percentages work and can affect flavor and taste and balance. Not only with that, but balanced beer with hops and body and flavor and sweetness and dryness and this, that, and the other. And there's been many, many years of trial and error, lots of mistakes, but I've always learned more from my mistakes than I ever did trying to do it right the first time. So don't be afraid to screw up.
Exactly.
I'm a king of screw up. Trust me.
And with the forest carb, Todd, since you've told me that you want to do the video different, you've probably changed your method or tweaked your method. You're not changing, you're tweaking stuff ever so slightly anyway. So what is it now that the video is still good information.
It's not that different. I mean, all I'm saying is one of the things, and I have to go watch the video again, but I know at one time I used to, instead of doing it for a minute, I did it for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or something like that. And that worked almost all the time. But every once in a while, I would overcarbonate something. And I hate overcarbonating something because then you got to deal with all that foam and you got to get it back down again. And it takes forever. So I hate to overcarbonate something. So I'm just more careful now to not do it for so long until I check it.
Right. Okay. So the video then doesn't probably need to be made. I thought you just want to make the video because you want people to see what you actually look like now versus in shape, younger, skinnier Todd in the video. Like you wanted just a more accurate representation of who you are today.
I don't see a difference in Todd in the first day I met him. I mean, he looks exactly the same as the first time he popped his head in the dealership looking for me.
We're gonna thank you, James. I appreciate it. We're gonna call it Fat Todd Carbonation
Yeah,
or what?
that's what I'll update the title. Absolutely. I'm only giving
Hey,
you
we could make a recipe, Fat Todd.
Fat Todd.
Yeah, I like that.
That is I think that's our January recipe is Fat Tire. Let's call it Fat Todd.
I hate you guys. But y'all are welcome to do that. I think you probably learned over the years is I take a ribbing pretty well with the friends I grew up with.
Yeah, you
They're brutal.
and when you
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and when you stick around Todd long enough, like my skin is thick. It is thick. And his friends just pick right up. Like when I first started hanging out with his friends, the first opening weekend I ever went to, I mean, from day one, they're calling me names and stuff I hadn't heard in years. And Todd's like, you can give it back, I promise. I was like, okay, because I didn't know what to do here because these guys are all, I mean, I'm supposed to respect my elders, all these old men making fun of me. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But so what I did was challenge them to fights, and that didn't work out. But anyway, Todd. But with the video update stuff, the two that we get requested, a lot of people, because you've talked about on the show, I've talked about your forced carb, but also the comparison video for all-in-one stuff, in which I don't know actually what we would do besides you could throw the G40 in there and update that. The information on these videos though is pretty evergreen. Like the things you'd go over, James, even though they didn't have a pump version mash and boil at the time, you showed how you made it into one, and then people can get a pump version of it now anyway if they wanted one. So the information is pretty evergreen, I feel like. But anyways, I've done a great job this whole episode of digressing from the questions and starting other topics. But for Jerry's question, wrapping it up, you would do it different, James. I won't reiterate everything you already said, Todd. But yeah, you do it different. You won't. It's not a one size fits all when you're forced carbing 2.5 gallons inside a 5-gallon keg versus a full keg.
Yep.
Yeah. I was just
Yeah, there's just a lot more surface area for the beer to like Todd said, for the CO2 to incorporate into the beer.
Yeah.
Kind of like the way I think about it is if you've ever seen a soda carbonator, it's got a little round tank and you pressurize it and then you turn the water on. And the reason why you do it that way is it produces equal amounts of space with CO2 and water, and the pump agitates it, and it forces the CO2 in there. It's got to be cold too, but that's the way it works. And the way it works is the fact that there's equal amounts of CO2 airspace and then water, and it dissolves quicker than if there was more water and less CO2. So,
interesting. And temperature is a factor too, right? I mean, like when you're
the colder it is, the easier it is to dissolve
Absorb.
CO2 into the liquid.
Right. So that
huge factor. That's another thing too, Josh. I'm glad you brought that up. If you're forced carbonating and your beer is 30 degrees, it's going to be a lot different than if you're forced carbonating and your beer is 50 degrees. And I know that may sound ridiculous, but it's not uncommon after you finish transferring and doing all these things that your beer is 50 degrees and it's going to force carbonate slower.
That is a good point. I'm glad I brought that up.
So it's a good idea to chill it, to pre-chill it before you force carb it, I think.
I'm glad you said that, James, because I was about to ask you, when we got into pressure brewing and you did a few batches at room temp, you brought them down before you started carbonating them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you were also though on those where you were doing cold conditioning anyways, for clarity's sake, right?
Sure.
Mainly. And then you let them get a certain temperature, then you force carb, and then it's ready to serve.
Yeah, it transfers a lot cleaner cold than it is warm.
Yeah, that's a good point. I need to remember that more. But also, I like, the bringing it down to temperature, or pardon me, cooling down the beer when you're going to be transferring it or carbing it and serving it is just going to make the whole process that much easier, enjoyable, quicker.
Can I go back to another question? It just came to me. I thought about something I forgot to say earlier.
Oh, I love it.
On the transferring it into a keg is your secondary.
Oh yeah.
And then cold crashing it. Always keep in mind, you're going to get a lot of crap in your beer glass when you first pour a beer because you've done your job. You've clarified it, but all the crap that was in there is on the bottom and you're sucking it up with your dip tube. So if you cold crash something for a week in a keg and then you go and pour a glass don't go, oh my God, what's wrong? It's not cold crashing. It looks it's totally cloudy. Well, that's the reason. After you pour a couple of beers, then you'll start getting that clear beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I'm glad you thought of that, Todd. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It was my pleasure, Josh.
I was going to let some awkward silence just sit there. I didn't know how to wrap that up. Jerry, thank you for submitting the question. Guys, that's all I have for this week's episode. Thank y'all for your time. I'm going to get this edited, get this published, and then tomorrow, after the workday, I'm hitting the road. I won't see y'all this weekend.
Have fun at the beach.
Yeah.
Gonna have a blast. I'll send y'all. It's supposed to be thunderstorming the whole time, so I'll send you pictures of beautiful Port Aransas and
all right.
the
Can't wait to see that
40-degree rainstorm. I gotta stop in where you stop in Corpus, right, at the Total Wine, James? That's the one you go to. I gotta stop there. I gotta get some whiskey and some beer. And I figured I'd just do it on the drive.
Oh, and don't forget some Moscato.
Prosecco is her thing right now.
Prosecco. Don't forget the Prosecco. Yeah. You're going to need a lot of that.
Yeah, I won't elaborate, but I'll just say shout out to Cruise Ship Christy.
I'm so glad she does not listen to this, or you would be having a bad weekend.
Yeah. I'm going to edit that out. Anyways, guys, thank you for your time. I'll catch you next week.
Thanks. Bye.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or you can be Todd's best friend and leave us a voicemail at 325-305-6107. For the best hops available online, give our friends at Hops Direct a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also get a free pack of Imperial yeast along with premium recipes from us when you join our Trub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Steubing. Thanks for listening.